Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy day today. Over the next 20 minutes, we're going to talk about what has changed, how it's affected your business, and really your bottom line. This is our agenda for today. We're going to discuss what's going on with the latest in hacking and how it affects your small business. Dive into the why you are a target, even if you don't think you are. And we're going to talk about the real cost of an attack. I know sometimes I get, well, isn't our stuff already out there? Or so what if our systems are locked up? We'll just buy new ones. Or I'm not going to pay the ransom. Or down to even we don't have anything. So we're going to dive into this a little bit more, help you understand what the true cost of an attack is, regardless of your situation. And finally, we're going to talk about steps you can take to protect your business. A couple of weeks ago, there was a 60 minutes segment. A top U.S. official was talking about China and not not normal China hacks, against the military. These were China hacks against local infrastructure and small businesses. And what they were highlighting was a town in Massachusetts where the cyber criminals were sitting in their network for over 5 years. Now, think about that for a second. Over 5 years, they were sitting in the water treatment plant's network, just waiting and watching. What they learned was the way they got there was through outdated equipment, outdated software, and just poor passwords. Once these criminals were ready to attack, they went in to increase the chlorine level of the water treatment plant to basically make people sick or even cause death. The stunning fact was that the reason why they were doing this was not, for ransom like everybody thinks. It wasn't for money at all. It was really just to redirect our attention. Think about it for a second. If we're busy, responding to emergencies on our local infrastructure and businesses, how much time do we have to spend on our real criminals? I mean, our real enemies. Another thing I want to talk to you about is privacy and data breach laws. Every day they're being strengthened across the country. There are several states that have really strict privacy and data breach laws requiring that businesses have confirmed cybersecurity programs in place. And usually once these laws are out there, especially in the more larger states like New York and California and Texas, it's just a matter of time before it's rolled out to all the states and being adopted. What about your cybersecurity insurance policies? Believe it or not, even if you have a cybersecurity insurance policy, there is law in there. There's talk in there that basically states that you need to implement what you say you have implemented. So if you generally, when you fill out a cybersecurity insurance policy, you have to go through a checklist. And if you have a breach and they find out that you didn't implement the stuff that you said you were going to do, you can actually receive fines from the insurance companies or even be sued yourself. And then on top of that, there are now, like, if you sign contracts, not necessarily with the government, but other companies, there's starting to be provisions in there for making sure that you have, a cybersecurity program in place, because it's that important that they want to make sure that if they're going to do business with you, that you are protecting yourself so that you can protect them. One of the other things I always like to talk about is, the cybersecurity, the cyber criminal activity or industry, as I sometimes call it. It's a $10 trillion plus business. Okay, if you want to call it that. They've been tracking this over since like 2016, 2017, and they have recorded that it's a 30% growth year over year. Think about that number for a second. Does your business grow 30% year over year? Well, the cyber criminal activities business does. And what's even more astonishing is that it's actually 9% of the world's economy. The key takeaways here is that most small businesses are more vulnerable than big businesses, generally because they lack expertise and resources to deploy proper security strategies. A lot of small businesses believe that securing their business is an astronomical investment, so they don't even think about it or even look into it. And worse, they either see it as a cost center, instead of an investment or a protection like it should be thought of. And many are just afraid to ask because they fear of being sold to. So we just recently onboarded an accounting firm. Their previous IT provider was recommended to them by the AICPA to keep them secure and compliant. And if you don't know what the AICPA is, it's basically a governing body for accounting and CPA professionals, to make sure that they are, keeping them educated, make sure that they are compliant with, with the IRS and the FTC safeguards. And so this company was recommended to them to do just that. Well, early in the year, they had a failure on their network server. And when they tried to do a restore, they learned that their backup had been failing for 3 months without notice. So this was in the middle of March. So they had no choice but to restore from a 3-month-old copy. And then their team had to work overtime just to redo all the work they had done up until that point so that they can get these tax returns out on time, for April 15th. Well, fast forward, the last straw for them was on October 15th. They were filing the extension, the extension tax returns, and they learned that several of their clients' tax returns got hijacked, meaning that the cyber criminals knew enough about these taxpayers' information, including the PID numbers, to call the IRS, reroute the funds to a different bank account. The clients and the taxpayer didn't learn about this until after October 15th, when the real returns were actually filed. Now, that's kind of scary both for the client and for the taxpayer. To think about it, if you were getting a refund, learning that the cyber criminal already got that refund from you, and it's scary for the client because now they have a whole bunch of hoops that they need to jump through. And it doesn't just stop there. We've heard, from several businesses losing $10, $50, or even $100,000, when they fall for various phishing scams. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. What would you do in your own business if you lost $10,000, $50,000, or even $100,000 to a phishing scam, a wire fraud, and you couldn't get that money back? What would that do to your business? As I mentioned earlier about the accounting firm, the owner thought he was doing the responsible thing and ethical thing by hiring a firm, especially one that was recommended, came recommended highly, to keep them secure and compliant. Now, in this particular incident, the hackers didn't ask for a ransom. They just quietly hijacked those tax returns, and it just wasn't until October 15th that anybody found out about it. So, what did it cost the accountant? Well, his reputation. Several of his clients that were affected no longer want to do business with him, and chances are they're going to tell others. There's a chance he might get sued. He had to go hire a breach lawyer and other things. There could also be fines levied by the IRS and the FTC, and it could limit his ability to do tax returns. He may not be able to e-file, for instance, or even worse, he may have oversight from the IRS, for several years, just to make sure that he's doing the right thing. And not to really mention that all the time it has cost him and his staff in dealing with the breach. The key takeaway here, I think, for you is that the cost of the breach attack isn't simply as X dollars. It's a reputation loss. It's a threat to your way of life, conducting business as usual, regulatory fines, and as I mentioned, oversight. Who wants the government or somebody overseeing what you do in your business? So, how do you take control? Well, first it starts with understanding where your risks are. No two businesses are the same, even if they are the same size and the same industry. So, understanding what your risks are, understanding you as the business owner in your business, what your risk tolerance is, what you're willing to accept. your responsibilities as it relates to regulations, laws, and contractual obligations. Then you need to find and invest in a cybersecurity partner that has a shared responsibility with you. Now, going back to our previous story about the accountant, after we onboarded them, we found an active and persistent threat on one of the computers that has been there for at least as far back as March. What I want you to understand here, there are IT providers that say they do cybersecurity, and then there are IT providers that practice cybersecurity. Unfortunately for this accountant, he learned the hard way that he was working with an IT provider that does cybersecurity. So you want to make sure that who you work with is an IT provider that practices cybersecurity. So now I want to introduce you to our team. Myself, Carmine, I'm the Chief Strategic Officer. I'm the one that designs the solutions for our clients. I oversee it and make sure that we, meaning the client and us, because of our shared responsibility, are meeting our obligations and requirements. Oscar, Matt, and Carlos are part of the client success team. They deliver their services based on the guidelines I put together for our clients. Oscar oversees the client success team, making sure that everything runs smoothly, and Carlos is in charge of governance and operational assurance. That's a fancy title to say he's making sure that solutions, the tools, and the services we have in place are working correctly, and we are keeping you secure and compliant. And not only that, but having that documented and audit ready for you. Last year, we went through a rigorous certification process called the Cybersecurity Trust Mark from Global Technology Innovation Alliance, the GTIA. We chose this certification because it's not a technical certification. It's an assurance that our company has met thorough, third-party validated standards aligned with the frameworks like NIST and CISA. With so many IT service providers and MSPs out there in the marketplace, the Trust Mark proves our cybersecurity practices meet the highest industry standards. We earned this Trust Mark through a deep review of our systems and processes. A third-party group checked our tools, training, response plans, and attested to our maturity and cybersecurity practices. So what's next? Well, you've taken the first step by being here today, but what's next? Here are a few actions you can take to secure your business. 1. Get a risk assessment. Every business has unique vulnerabilities. Start by having a qualified professional assess your risks and identify where you're most exposed. The key is to knowing what you're up against. Develop a written information security plan. Your business needs a clear, documented plan for how you'll handle data protection and compliance. Even if you are not in an industry that requires one, as I mentioned before, state laws are changing every day, and someday it will be required, and it's so much better to be ahead of it. Plus, if you ever decide to sell your business, buyers are looking for cyber secure businesses. It proves a level of maturity and a lower risk on their investment. Create an incident response plan. Prepare for the worst, knowing exactly what your team will do if a breach occurs so you can minimize damage and downtime. And implement a continuous monitoring and risk management system. It's not enough to go through this and set up security once and forget about it. Ongoing monitoring of your systems is essential for catching potential issues before they escalate. Now, you could tackle all this on your own, but partnering with an expert can save you time, ensure thoroughness, and give you a peace of mind. When you're ready, we're here to help. I know cybersecurity can be overwhelming, but you don't have to go it alone. Let us guide you through it. In a cyber discovery session, we'll pinpoint exactly where your business stands and how we can strengthen it together. Book your session today. In the session, we'll review your current setup, highlight potential vulnerabilities, and outline a strategic roadmap tailored to your business. Our goal is to ensure that your business thrives securely without interruption. You can go to the link in the slide above, or you can give us a call at 570-243-9205. This consultation is no cost to you and will walk you through how to get ahead of the threats facing your business.